Thank you so much everyone for coming along tonight. It's great to see some new faces and welcome to Stories of Hope. And am I too echoey or am I all good out there?
It's a little bit further away.
A little bit further away? Yeah.
Sorry, that's my bad. Go ahead.
I founded Stories of Hope around 8 years ago after I hit my own ultimate rock bottom. And I'd actually had 3 rock bottoms in my life, but this was unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. And it was after losing both my parents. And for those of you who don't know, that I'm Rusty's sister, so a lot of you know Rusty and some of you don't. But when I was going through my really hard time, I was somebody who was a leader in the community and a counsellor and there for other people when they were going through hard times. And there was this perception from others that I didn't need any help. And I hardly had one person reach out to me to see if I was okay. And through that time, I desperately looked for somebody that could tell me that I was going to make it through the journey. And I'd been through so many different traumas through that time. It's something that I can only really describe now as a trauma trigger tsunami, is what I named it. And I actually couldn't find that person. And I locked myself away for about 6 weeks and pulled out of all my regular activities. And that in itself is a sign that somebody's not doing well when they're missing from their usual engagements or life, you know, what they're doing in life. And I knew that my mental health was really struggling and I forced myself out to go to a women's conference. And at that conference I heard the story of 3 different people that had been through extraordinarily hard times. And when I arrived, there was a man doing a cooking demonstration and he had lost his entire family in a fire about 5 years previous, and he was, I don't know if anyone remembers Ready Steady Cook, but he was a chef, Matt Polinsky, on Ready Steady Cook. And on Christmas night, I think they had lights on a Christmas tree and a curtain caught fire, and next thing he woke up in hospital and his whole family was gone. And I thought the fact that he can get up even 5 years after that terrible tragedy and bring joy to people doing something that he loved really just was so inspirational to me. And I cried through the whole thing, but in that moment of hearing those 3 people's stories, and I'm really echoing here, aren't I, Joel?
It's okay.
Yeah, in that moment of hearing those 3 people's stories, I had a light bulb moment. And that was, if I couldn't find the person that was going to be able to tell me that it was going to be okay, that I would become the person for others. And I knew so many people, because I'm a connector out in the community, who had overcome difficult times as well. And I thought if we can join together and share our stories of triumph and resilience, we can change the community, you know. And then the dream was maybe even Australia and maybe the world. And I don't know where that came from because I've never really been a visionary or a big thinker. But I really feel like, you know, that was maybe something that God put in my heart, because my latest book that I wrote actually has the stories of people from all around the world. And I had a mantra at that moment that came into my head too, and that was that my pain will not be in vain and I will use it for other people's gain. And I birthed Stories of Hope about 2 weeks later, and we've interviewed hundreds of people and written 4 books and a podcast now. But what excites me is knowing that people come into these rooms, and some people come in and they don't know if there's any hope for tomorrow, and they walk out filled with hope. And that's our hope tonight, mine and the speakers. We're really blessed to have John and Scotty and my brother Russell, and they've all been to hell and back, and they all have different stories, overcoming different addictions, but each one of their stories will reach something inside of you tonight, and I hope that you leave here tonight knowing that anything is possible. So with that, I will ask you to give a round of applause for John Killick. Come on up.
Crunch I was talking about.
Okay.
Maybe I
Okay.
Yeah, maybe just use the other one for some reason.
Yeah. I wanted to have this one because I don't like that, but I'll do what's got to be done. Here you go.
That was scary. Huh?
Yeah.
Can everybody hear that?
John, where would you like to sit?
No, I'll stand. It's all right.
You're going to stand?
Yeah.
We're doing an interview.
Oh, we're doing an interview.
We're doing an interview.
Yeah, I'll sit over here.
All right.
No, well, you're lead.
Well,
We probably better.
You just need to switch it over because I think the connection's moving. I can't.
okay. So it's coming from that speaker over there.
Is it that one over there?
Yeah.
All right. It might be facing the wrong way.
Gotta love sound issues.
Oh, that's better.
We all good here?
Yeah.
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
So, a lot of people know John for the prison escape. So John escaped from Silverwater Prison, maximum security, in a hijacked helicopter by his girlfriend. But there is a lot more to John's story, and that's something that John really wants people to know. And John didn't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to be a bank robber. He had a traumatic childhood, and I'm going to ask you to just share about how life started for you, John, because you were a really good kid, weren't you?
Yeah, I was a good kid. I was actually very sickly and had asthma and just about anything you can get, I got it. Read a lot of books. Listened to, in those days we didn't even have TV. We used to listen to serials. And, you know, sort of lived in a bit of a world of fantasy because I was adopted. Never knew who my real parents were. And my father was, in those days, he'd come home drunk, terrorise the neighbourhood, terrorise us. My mother was a nervous wreck. And anyway, she committed suicide when I was 17. And I blame Dad for it, but I also blame the banks because they'd foreclosed on the house and we finished in a really the worst house in the suburb. We're all ashamed of it, and I thought it brought Mum down further. In those days, people didn't get depressed, didn't get treated for depression, things like that, and so she never got any treatment. Just they gave her a lot of sleeping tablets, anything she asked for in those days, and she overdosed and died. And so I blamed Dad, but later I blamed the banks as well. So I left home. He begged me not to go, and I said, look, you know, I was not ready for it. And the first day that I left, I booked into a cheap rooming house. They put me in with this big wrestler guy, and he tried to rape me, you know, the first night. So I was really dirty on the world. There's no doubt about it. I had a chip on my shoulder. Got mixed up with guys a bit older than me. They taught, we fell into petty thieving, like shoplifting and, you know, even going in and ordering meals and running out of shops, not paying for it. And just anything we could do to survive, really. And by the time I was 17, I was at Long Bay, and shouldn't have been in Long Bay at 17, but I was there, and that was one of the toughest jails in Australia at the time. And I had to learn fast the criminal code and the criminal code is the opposite to what we live by out here. What we abide by and live by and believe in here in the criminal in the world of prisoners and jails, it's the opposite. For instance, if some guy is getting bashed in a corner, and you tell the officers, look, this guy over there getting bashed by this guy, they'll bash you, or they'll put you on protection and call you a dog. Everything's opposite. You've got to understand that thieving's okay in jail. Get out, if you're a good thief, you're respected. And at that stage, the highest regard was for bank robbers. So I said, well, if we're going to do it, I'll be the best and I'll be a bank robber. So there weren't many bank robbers in those days. The only two I knew of were Darcy Dugan, very famous escapee bank robber, and the other one was Kevin Simmons. Both of them were doing life. So I should have got the message that, that there was no future in being a bank robber escapee, but that's what I became.
And John, why was the highest regard for bank robbers?
Because this is the criminal code, that if criminals look at it this way, that if you're going to be a criminal, they respect the ones that are good criminals. And in those days, there were no drugs. And I've got to emphasise that. There were no drugs. And the code of ethics was maintained to a high degree. It was very rare to see anybody in protection. Now, you go to Goulburn Jail, maximum security jail, half of the population are on protection. And mostly it's because of drugs. They get into trouble over drugs. I've seen some very strong, staunch guys go on protection. And people say, oh, they're dogs, but they're not. If they step out in the main, they're going to get stabbed by 6 people, you know. And it's happened. Goulburn was known as the killing fields. There were, I think, 8 people killed in 3 years, just stabbed to death. And I was in the yard there only for one of my... I was playing chess and didn't see it. But the guy, what happened, one little Asian guy ran up and put his arms around this big guy, who was a bully, pinned his arms to his side. About 5 others ran in with knives, makeshift knives, ping, 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 and he fell to the ground dead with 56 holes in him. And then they just dragged him down and put a blanket over him. And the screws, the prison guards came in and said, we're short of it. Oh, go and have a look under the blanket. Another one down. You know, that was their attitude. And the governor should have been sacked. It took a lot before they actually... What they finally did was segregate the jail. And they started putting the Muslims in one yard, the Aussies and were mixed with the Islanders, and Aussies were mixed with the Asians. And then you also had the Aboriginals in another yard. And then further down you had protections. Then you had protection from protections. Then you had further down the high security protections and high security risk. And the jail was a logistic nightmare to run. That's what it was like. And that's people don't realise with jail that they see American jails, movies, and they see that it's always action, bang, bang, one thing after another, bang. But jails aren't like that. Most of the time, anyone who's been in jail will tell you that it's probably 95% boring, and then there's that 2 to 5% where it's full on. And believe me, when it's full on, you don't want to be there. You don't want to be there.
John, what did you tell yourself to know that you had to survive in there?
Well, excuse me. My father was a fighter and boxer. He taught me to fight, and I got into a fight very early and won it. That I was told by an old guy, that's good that you did that, but don't kid yourself. There's guys in here who could beat you with one hand behind their back. So don't go into assault with them, don't do this, because I was a young guy, you know. And there were young guys getting raped in those days. In those days, I want you to try and visualise what it was like. There's 3 in a cell, the lights off at 9, no TVs, no radios, no books, no sheets. There was a bucket in a corner, that was the toilet, and there was a jug of water for 3 men, and there was nothing to do. So if a good-looking boy happened to step in the cell with the 2 other guys, they'd look at him as possible entertainment, and it happened a lot. Now, the authorities knew about it, they hushed it up, they didn't want it getting out to the public. There were a lot of rapes and stuff went on those days. As everybody knows, you know, homosexuality's been legalised, and they even supply condoms in jail now, and that's not a problem now in jail. It's very, very rare there's any rapes or anything like that. But drugs have taken over and become the main problem in jail, and guys will do anything to get drugs. If they're addicted to drugs, they can't do much about it. They need drugs, and so they get their people outside to try and bring it into them. So in the end, it gets to the stage where you can't get shoes sent in, you can't get books sent in, you can't get anything sent in because of the drug problem. And your visitors, you've got dogs jumping all over them, you know.
And we're going to hear a bit more about the drugs side of things from Scotty shortly. Now, John, you had a gambling problem. And, I mean, can you gamble in jail? But was that the fuel for you to actually continue to commit these robberies, or was it your anger towards the banks that kept you going, or did you become fearless and think that you weren't going to get caught?
Well, it's a bit of everything there because I gambled. The first three bets I had, I didn't believe in gambling. My father used to lose, and he said, "Don't bet; it's a Oaks game." But I used to play a lot of tennis. Went to my mate's place. It was raining, no tennis. He used to bet on a horse. He said, "John, just pick a couple of horses." There's SB bookies in every street in those days. So I did it against my better judgment because I had money that I didn't use on the tennis fees. So 3 horses, they all won. I remember one was the Caulfield Cup, Red Crows, come from last. And it just, it's ignited something in me, the thrill of it. And I became hooked. And I only bet small in those days, but when as I made a lot more money, I started to gamble and heavy, and started to lose. And then when I got into a lot of trouble, I was trying to get to America. I had a girlfriend over there. They wouldn't let me in because I had a minor record. And I thought about the banks and said, that's where I'm going for the money, for the banks, because, I didn't see, and it took me a long time, only in the last 15 years that I accepted and worked with Sykes, that when you run into a bank or run into anywhere with a gun, what you're doing, it's not you against the banks. Banks and institutions, they're abstract. They're just abstract. So it's you against the people in the bank. It's you against the tellers. It's you against the people in there. There might be 10 people in the bank. Now, 8 of them probably accept they've been robbed and know something exciting. But 2 others might be traumatised. They may never be the same. It could ruin their life. And I accept that over the years, the many banks that I robbed and the things that I did, that I've got a lot of victims out there. And I accept that. And so you've got to say to yourself, well, look, how long does this keep going on? And why am I doing it? Why am I doing it? And once I made the decision, I remember I was in a bank. I think I told you this. I was in a bank.
This was your light bulb moment, really, wasn't it?
It was.
It really turned your whole thinking
Well, yeah, I had a few light bulb moments, but this is because I'd worked with Sykes net. But when I walked into this bank, and this was about 11 years ago, and by then I'd made the decision that I was going to try and do a lot of good. I realised I'd done a lot. My family had suffered a lot, and I would try and do some good. And this girl, I went in the bank, there's no one there, and this girl came up, she was really nice, and the bank teller, there's no one else in there. And she was so nice, did everything she could for me. And then she said, "Thank you, John." And I thought, she knows who I am, but she didn't. She just, because she saw my name. And I thought, a decade ago, I'd have run in there with a mask and a gun and terrorised that girl. And that's the truth. That's what I used to do. I used to bluff. I never had any intention of shooting anyone, but they didn't know that. As the judge said, you didn't send them a letter and let them know. So I realised then, I thought, what a nice girl, and she wouldn't deserve what I've done and what I could do to her. And isn't it great to be able to walk out of a bank, not have to run out of a bank with a mask on, yeah.
Fight for John, I don't know why. Doesn't like you today.
Can you all hear me asking John the question?
Yes.
So I want you to know I'm not interrupting him, but it's rather than me taking the microphone. So I'll give you the microphone back in a sec, John. But John, when you had that light bulb moment, was that before or after the Great Escape? So how long were you in jail? The next questions are, how long were you in jail for before that Great Escape? And you were also bashed within an inch of your life, weren't you, at Kentridge Jail? Right. And can you give us some context as to when that happened And what led you to want to so desperately? I mean, I'm sure everybody that goes into jail desperately wants to get out, but go to the extent of hijacking a helicopter, that's next level. So but if you can just put all that into context, that'd be great.
Well, I will, and I'll go right into that. But I've got to tell you, we were talking about, did you think that you're invincible or something like that?
Yeah.
Now, sometimes when you're succeeding at something, often you start thinking you're invincible. And what happened that I started to think it was fate. And I still believe it was fate, that because I was 18 when I made the first escape from Bathurst courthouse, and a cop chased me and shot at me. Bang, bang. Missed. Next time I was down in Melbourne in '66, robbed a bank. Tellers came up. In those days, tellers had guns, real guns, and we knew that's why there weren't a lot of banks robbed, because the guys were worried about getting shot. They were trained, bang, bang, 3 times. They hit the car. So I thought, missed again, you know. And then got in a helicopter, bang, 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 3 times. Missed again. And I thought, missed again. And then I robbed the bank in Barrel. This off-duty cop picked up half a house brick, and threw it at me, missed me by about an inch. That would have knocked my head off. I thought, missed again. And I thought, I am not meant to die. You know, I'm meant to be around, but it's not to rob banks, it's not to escape. And I realised that what I've got to do is get out, help people, and get all the stories across about what happened, how the system is a 2-tiered system, how it works. It does work, it's a 2-tiered system. You'll see often that people will get off in court if they are somebody, and they've got a bit of pull or a bit of money, or a bit of status. The average guy, if you come from a place like Mount Druitt and that, you've got no chance, you're going to jail. And once that happens and you get on a treadmill, people stay on it like I did for decades. So what I've done, I've written 7 books. I've written 7 books. I've done a lot of talks at universities. I've done shows like that, and I love doing shows with Kerrie. We've done them in Queensland, we've done them in Victoria, we've done it in the jail down in Perry's, haven't we, down there? And we've also done them here at Asheville. So, and Kerrie's got a way of bringing out all this thing, because she does get all these stories out of people, and it's great. I think it's an achievement. I think it's something that should be done, and I support it wholly. But with me, I always, until I got that light bulb moment, I felt I'm hitting back at the system. I'm robbing banks. I'm hitting back at the system, you know, because banks rob us. They might have been responsible for my mother's death. Yeah. So, and down in Melbourne when I got caught, I had tried to escape. I got escaped from Hawthorn Court, and nearly made it, but got tackled at the top of the steps by a guy. Now they don't play rugby league down there. You wouldn't believe that an AFL player could tackle you, but that's what happened. And that was fate too. It was meant. I wasn't meant to get away. And they took me to Haight Station, stripped me off, flogged me with batons, kicked me and they used to do that to everybody. And I thought, what I'm going to do when we get out, I'm probably going to kill one of those guys. I thought about how I'm going to kill him. That's what it does. And I wasn't the only one. I've heard so many stories, the same thing. And now I do tours down in Melbourne and go around. It's reopened, Pentridge reopened for tours, and Kerrie's been down there. They're good, aren't they, down there?
Yeah, it's very interesting because they've set it up now as a restaurant, and John took me for a tour there, and off to the side of the restaurant they've got these little wine cellars set up with 2 little chairs in there, and people can go in and have a few drinks in there.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Oh, great.
And John took me into his cell, and we had a seat down there and just, you know, had a bit of a look around, and he said, that's where I slept. And it was so weird, wasn't it? Just tiny little area.
4 years. It was 4 years.
And now people are having a few drinks in there.
Well, they are. And the expensive one, they've got 5 cells they've opened up in a big thing, and Catherine and them stayed there. It's expensive. And you stay there overnight, and you've got the expensive restaurant there, and you go into the swimming pools there. Or you've got to worry about a lot of ghosts. There's a lot of ghosts, they reckon, down there. a lot of people were hanged and executed down in Melbourne, and people think about that. So they do try and scare some, I guess, with that. But the thing is, so I thought I got out of there, and then I just.
So how long had you been in jail at that stage?
Well,
And how old were you?
I did 7 years, 4 years in H-Vision, getting flogged and terrorised for 4 years.
And how old were you then, John?
I was just in my 20s.
Right.
And what happened, got out when I was about 30, they had a Royal Commission, we had riots down there, we had a Royal Commission, and I've got to say, there's always a bit of humour in jail, and I've got to tell you about one incident. There was a mad Irishman, his name was Brennan, and he was in the end cell under observation, and he called out, and the officer that was on that night was named Leonard. He was a strict military man, moustache, spit polished shoes, pressed shirt, everything. And this Brennan called out, he said, officer, quick, hurry. And he ran down and he opened the trap, he said, what? And he went bang, threw all his shit all over him. All over his face, down his shirt. And he started screaming. This is the guy who's in charge of H-Vision basketball. Oh, and he's run up the thing. And we heard him on the phone. And everybody's saying, shit, what's going to happen? And anyway, he's on the phone. We know what's going to happen. They're going to come down. The squad's going to come down. They're going to bash him. They're going to flog him within an inch of his life. And then he's thinking about the Irishman, and he thought, officer. No answer. Officer. Sorry about that, old chap. And there's no answer. And then he said, I'll pay for the dry cleaning. This is true. This actually happened. You couldn't make this up. Anyway, guess what? Because they come down and we're all screaming out, kicking doors. They nearly killed this guy, the Irishman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Just
So,
for doing that?
yeah, so, yeah, but crims are funny. A lot of violent things will happen, and I'll turn it into and show the funny side. Now, you're all laughing there, but this is a pretty heavy thing that's going on. This is a place where they bash people every day.
Yeah.
And this guy's, the officer, the tough officer's running up screaming. Because he was the one guy who had the immaculate clothes.
I bet you ought to love that.
Well, we did, but we were worried about what had happened to the Irishman. He finished up going to Ararat. He was crazy.
Were you scared, John, in jail?
Yeah.
Because you did, we'll fast forward a little bit, but we'll go, because you spent about 30 years all up in jail, didn't you?
Yeah, maximum securities. But I mean, last time they whacked me, give me 15 years for the escape in a helicopter.
Wow.
There is one that has gone my way. So you do win some. And when I was in Queensland, the girl slipped me a pistol. It didn't work, it was a replica pistol. But she drilled a hole in the middle and painted it black. So it looked real. And these guys had real guns, they took me to hospital. And it was set up on her and she was waiting. And anyway, she ran over and slipped me the gun. I was handcuffed and pointed at him. And he went, I said, go for your gun, and you did. And he dropped his hands, so I turned and ran, got away, got in the car, got away. And they didn't get me back for about 7 years on that. And what happened, they lost the case. They couldn't, and they still can't charge me. I don't mind telling because there's nothing they can do about it. What happened, it shows you that in Queensland and all that, right, I'm sorry, but
Oh, thanks, John, from Queensland, and you know that. The
it,
interview's over now.
and the prison officers, I mean, yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course, that's
So
right.
what happened, they didn't make out a warrant.
Right.
Which means when they took me outside the gate, I was not in legal custody. I was not in legal custody. So they found out later, when I tried that I didn't escape because I was already out. They took me out, and illegally, they took me illegally out the door. So I wrote a letter to the commissioner saying, you shouldn't have taken me out there. I didn't want to go,
Yeah.
And so they hated me for that, and they did get me back about 11 years ago to extradite me for not reporting on parole on something 30 years ago, which was absolute crap. But they got me for 6 months for that.
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
John, when the day that you did escape in the helicopter,
Yeah.
did you have any doubts whatsoever, or like that you'd get caught, or did you think, no, this is I'm out of here and we're never getting caught?
Well, not many people know, but the police know. We had it set up for false passports. See, and but when I rang, because the guy was in jail, when I rang, the wife said somehow, John, they're on us. Somehow they knew about her. Now I don't know.
Is this the Russian girlfriend that they knew about?
No. This was the lady was. See, the guy was. He made false passports. They were expensive.
For you guys, okay.
Yeah, but we had the money for that.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And what happened? She said, John, they're on us. Now, I worked it out later. He must have said something to people. He couldn't. It was just too big. He's told people because once that was gone, I knew we were trapped in the country. Because I thought if we could get out to a country with a non-extradition treaty, and there are some of them, that eventually I could get Gloria here to come over with her son and see them and visit, but it didn't happen. Once we couldn't get out of the country, we were stuck. It was just a matter of time. I said to Lucy, look, we're in a lot of time because they can be wrong, and they were getting 300 sightings a day. 300 sightings a day, and they were wrong. But I said they're only going to be right once.
Yeah.
So we won the battle every day, but they weren't going to win the battle once, and that's what happened in the end. They got a tip off about us that was right.
And something interesting happened, didn't it, John, after the elaborate planning and everything that went into this, and there was months because you actually had a pilot as a cellmate, didn't you? And you picked his brains for a long time, and
well, it never would have happened before. The press picked up that Lucy's father was leader of a squadron, over in a helicopter squadron.
Right.
And he used to talk about he'd fly over Siberia and that, and see the prisoners bloody, come and get us, but of course he never would. But they picked up on that in the media and thought that's how they pulled this off. But the thing is, Lucy was never allowed anywhere near. They're very strict, the Russians over there, never allowed anywhere near that helicopter. She never got near. She didn't know anything about helicopters at all. But we got her to do a trial run. And this is what I mean about fate. You look through my life, there's so much fate there. Like I was meant to get caught getting tackled by an AFL player. I mean, they just don't tackle. You know? And I was away. I was a very fast runner. I was in my suit. I was away. No handcuffs. And he tackled me. And everybody said later, we just can't believe it. And the same when I got caught in Barrel in this bank robbery, there was an off-duty cop there. And when he chased me, I fired a shot over his head, no one on the ground, and he just kept coming. And he picked up a rock and threw a missile by about that much. And he said, that's not a real gun. Then I fired one to the ground and kicked up the dust. So the point is that it was through him that I was arrested. And I got away from him. It was through, people were driving past. They could see all the red smoke. There was a dive bomb, and they were ringing the stations up and saying, what movie? There's making a movie now and we can't recognise the actors. So what really happened is that when we didn't know how to do it, I knew, I went out and I saw 10 helicopters a day, an hour. We only got out twice a week to the Oval for an hour. But I noticed in that hour, maybe 10 helicopters come over, and I realised the Olympics were coming on. And I thought, any other jail, this couldn't work. But I watched, and the screws just didn't take any notice of those helicopters. Now, any other jail you go, a helicopter comes, because it's rare, straight away, they're alert. They're ready. They've been dreaming for 20 years of shooting down a helicopter or something. That's in their mentality to stop people getting out of jail. So, but these guys, they didn't worry because they knew it's just tourists coming through to look at the Olympic site. So I knew that there was a big chance that if we could hijack a helicopter, they wouldn't wake up until I was on the top.
Right.
But we still didn't know enough about it, and this is what I mean about fate. Next thing, there was a con man who was arrested in South Africa. He was a helicopter pilot, he had 8,000 hours. Then they sent him to Scotland, extradited him there to face it, then to New Zealand, then to Australia. Then he landed in Silverwater jail at the exact time I was there. And there were 16 wings, pods. They put him in my pod. Now, the odds of that, what are they? They're million to one, at least. It's got to be fake. And then not only that, guess what? They put him in my cell. They put him in my cell. Admittedly, I manipulated that a little bit, but they put him in my cell, and so straight away he knew who I was. So I was a bank robber, etc. And I told him I had quite a bit of money put away, and so Lucy was putting a bit of money in his account, and he said to me, John, for 10,000 when I get out, I'll swoop in the helicopter, pick you up and straight out, and he still gets you overseas. He was a con man, and he had no intention of doing that. But I learned he had books, helicopter books, magazines. I learned everything there was to know about helicopters, about alarms, a private alarm, silent alarm, which is called a transponder. And if they get into trouble, they pull that transponder out and notify us. So I knew we got to dismantle that. So I said to Lucy, do a trial flight, see where the transponder is, so you know where it is. And so he's got to get his headphones off. So she did a trial flight, come back, said she knew where he was, we could do it. And she did it. She pulled it off. And next thing, we had to know that I would be out because they often shut down jails and wings if there's one of the guards doesn't turn up. If somebody gets sick, if there's a fight, there's a lot of reasons why you might not get out. She had to know I'd be on the oval. We had getting out twice a week. She had to know I'd be there in that particular time. So they let us out that day, and I said, are we going out there? I said, yeah. I rang her, and she was waiting near the airport. I said, look, I'm going out for a run, I'll catch you later. And she knew that it went from there.
And she forgot the keys to the getaway car.
Yeah, we had a getaway car.
Elaborate plan with one small detail missing.
Yeah, well, 2 out of 3 is not bad.
Oh, no, that's exactly right. So, John, you've been off parole now for only, 2.5 years off parole?
Just coming up 3 years next month, but
okay.
They wouldn't let me do anything. I even entered a chess tournament in Canberra, and I like to play chess, and I was pretty good at it. And they okayed that, then they overruled and said, no, you can't play chess. I had offers to go to universities in different states and do talks, and they wouldn't let me do anything. So when the parole was finally up, I got through it. That was near 11 years ago now. I printed up a batch of T-shirts that said, I'm still here, bastards, and wore them down to Pentridge. And we're doing tours and said, and all the ex-crews are there, and I'm wearing this, I'm still here, bastards. They put me up in this hotel, the Adina, you stay there, and it looks right down to jail. And I had book signings, released a book, and we just had a ball, and one of the prison officers who used to work in H used a bash bell, come up to a guy he didn't know, he was a friend of mine, and said, have a look at him, he thinks he's a movie star. He said, he stayed in that expensive hotel, he's probably a millionaire, selling books. He said, I'm sick and I got no money, I worked all life. So they still hate me,
What they don't know is what you're doing to give back to society today.
You pointed that out. I do.
And that's the big thing about your story. We're talking about redemption tonight.
Yeah. Well, the redemption is that all the money I made from books, I made a fair bit. I've given just about all of it to underprivileged kids, and I still continue to do. Billy up there knows Billy's helped me at times. Macca over here has helped me at times, and Gloria certainly helped. And we did a lot of things to help kids over there. And the thing is that one, I'm pretty sure we saved the girl's life. She needed a cesarean, and they just wouldn't give it to her over there. And we raised money for that. And the kid, he's a lovely kid, isn't he? He's 3 years old now, and she had to have a cesarean, or they probably both would have died. So you achieve things. You see kids going to school, they've got shoes, uniforms, doing stuff that they wouldn't have been able to do. You know you've helped.
Yeah.
And I've got about 6 parents at home and a girl in Africa. But I've cut down. I can't keep it going. We're getting old. We need a bit of money put aside. But I still help, but only once a month now. But I still do help, yeah.
Well, John, we won't tell them anymore because it's in the books.
Yeah.
All the story.
Well, I love
Great,
this.
wonderful books up the back there with the whole story.
Yeah, I'd love you to read that book because it's been updated. It's got an extra 3 chapters in it. It's updated until about a year ago, and it's my whole life story. And it's warts and all, and it does turn into worse, the bad parts. And there's another book I've got there. I've written about Ronnie Isherwood, who was virtually forced to be a criminal. His father was a criminal.
Yeah.
And I met him in jail. He was 17 when I went to jail too. I was a lot older, and that's a great book too. So either one's pretty good book. If you're interested, I'll sign up for it.
Well, John, you've come from absolute tragedy in your childhood, and been through a lot of trauma, and as you said, realising now that you've put a lot of people through trauma as well. But you're a very kind person, you know, and I feel really honoured to know you.
Well, I feel honoured to know you, and you've helped out a couple of times those kids too. Yeah,
thank you, John.
Yeah, well, she has.
And you know, you're a true example that at any age you can change and anything's possible. And that's such an encouragement to know. And Gloria, we just want to honour you tonight as well because you've stood by John all these years and you're very much part of the story and you are a real inspiration. So, John, we'll get you back up for a Q&A shortly.
Yeah,
but
sure.
let's give John a wonderful round of applause and thank you so much, John. And you can go back with Gloria now and swap mics with, we're going to bring Scotty up.
Thank you.
I'll give my neck a break from...
They're twisting it other way.
Yeah, that's right. So, Scotty, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so hands up who knows Scotty. Yes. Yeah, he's got a few fans in the room. So, yeah, I've only had a couple of chats with Scotty, but just truly inspired by his story and really looking forward to you sharing tonight, Scotty. And I've got some questions written on a plate, but I'll try and go by memory. So, Scotty, you also, along with John, had a bit of a traumatic upbringing and you went through some experiences that really changed your life. Can you tell us about what life was like before you went off the rails and then what led you to go off the rails at around 17, 18?
Yeah, so my life was pretty good. I was pretty sporty, you know. I loved playing football, played reps, rugby league, you know. I loved all the sports and that. And then, but school was hard for me, you know. Had learning difficulties, getting in trouble from kindergarten, suspended, expelled, you know. So
Yeah.
School wasn't really my thing. So when it's like that, you sort of gravitate towards people that are like you, you know, the people that get in trouble, you know. And I knew I was a little bit different from when I started, you know. So.
And you think too that you had ADHD, don't you? When we were chatting,
Yeah, that's right.
and often that has been gone undiagnosed with a lot of people as well.
Yeah, well, I didn't find that out till a lot later on, you know.
Yeah,
So
right.
that sort of explains why I had so much trouble at school, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, you sort of gravitate towards other kids that are like you, you know, and they were the naughty kids, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, but no, going back to it, like I played footy and then under 16s, I did my knee. I done my AC and my knee in the grand final.
Okay.
Which means I pretty much couldn't play the next year, you know. So instead of training 3 days a week, then playing football on the weekend and that, I had nothing to do, you know. So
Yeah.
that's when you find, you know, you're going out partying, drinking, and that's when it all started, you know.
And was it also a sense of losing that team, that mateship that you had when you were playing rugby?
Yeah, of course, because they were all good boys, you know what I mean? They were all
Yeah.
good guys, you know.
Yeah.
They were all like into their fitness, this and that, you know, and then you sort of lose that and then you look for something else, I guess, yeah.
Yeah. And so something happened to your best mate, and that really sent you spiralling, didn't it?
Yeah. So 4 days after my best mate's 18th birthday, he got hit by a train up at Woy train station. Yeah, and that pretty much turned my life flipped my life upside down. You know, we done everything together. We played football together, hang out after school. We done everything. And I was meant to be with him that night, but I was on bail. And I had a curfew at 8 o'clock, and I said, no, I'll come with you. He goes, no, don't be stupid, you'll get in trouble.
Yeah.
I'll see you tomorrow. And yeah, I never saw him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's really sad, and I'm really sorry for
Yeah.
what you went through there. What were you on bail for?
I think it was assault.
Right.
Think, yeah.
Okay.
I like fighting back in the day, you know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, then after that, I just, my whole mindset changed. I thought to myself, if life can be taken away that quickly, I'm just going to live my life to the fullest, you know? But I lived it to the fullest the wrong way, you know? I turned to crime, I turned to drugs, I turned to,
Yeah.
you know?
And I was going to ask you that when you went through that tragedy, what you told yourself to be able to get through, because often when we go through traumatic events, we make a kind of an inner vow or tell ourselves something that's going to be able to propel us to get through that hard time. So you escaped in drugs.
Yeah, I think I just tried to numb it.
Yeah.
And
You
just
didn't
forget
really
about it.
get help or anything.
I didn't want to deal with it, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want to deal with it. So the easiest way to do that is through drugs.
Yeah.
You know, and then what drugs leads to is crime. What crime leads to is jail.
Yeah.
And then, you know,
Vicious,
like John
vicious
said, it's that
cycle.
treadmill, but I call it a revolving door.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the same thing as a treadmill. Crime, drugs, jail, back out, crime, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And so what drugs did you start on? Because
just
I know
started,
it got a
yeah.
lot worse for you.
Yeah, that's right. So I just started drinking, smoking a bit of pot here and there. And as it goes on, you start taking a few ecstasy pills, and then it just gradually goes on and on till, you know, you're in your mid-20s and you're a heroin addict, you know, so, yeah.
And it's interesting that you say, the way you said that, for people that haven't been through the drug cycle, you know, they're probably sitting wondering, well, how does that happen? How do you go from smoking weed to all of a sudden being a heroin addict? Can you remember the first day that you tried heroin?
Yeah, it was in jail, actually.
Right.
That was the first time I tried it in jail, yeah.
Okay.
My cellie got it in, like John said, that people get it in through their visitors and that.
Yeah.
And, yeah, my cellie got a drop that weekend. And yeah, that's the first time I tried it, you know. And people say it's the devil's drug, and it is the devil's drug, you know. As good as it makes you feel, the things you do for it and the things you do is just devilish, you know. Yeah.
But you went on to find a drug that was worse, didn't you, after that?
Yeah.
So, do you want to tell us about that?
Well, I mean, it started, like I said, but then it was heroin, it was
Yeah.
ice.
Ice, yeah.
You know, you'll take anything, yeah.
Yeah. And I think when we were talking about how ice is a real soul-destroying drug.
Yeah, 100%. You know, it all starts off happy and all this, but
Yeah.
by the end of it, you know, you're only going down one path. You know, you're going to be dead or you're going to be in jail.
And that is true. I counsel a lot of, I have counselled quite a few ice addicts, and that's exactly what I hear all the time.
Yeah.
And I know with my own addiction to alcohol and pills, you start off having a certain amount, and then that doesn't really work that great. So then you need more and more and more.
Yeah, that's
and you're
right.
continually chasing that high that you once got, but it never really comes, does
No,
it?
that's exactly right. And it just gets more and more expensive.
Yeah.
And no one has that sort of money, so what do you do for the money? You've got to do crime to do that.
Yeah. Scotty, how bad did it get? What was your worst day or your worst moment?
I mean, in addiction, you got a lot of bad moments in your life. You know, I think deep down you're depressed, you know?
Yeah.
And you try to hide that depression with drugs. You're trying to hide what you're feeling and what you've gone through drugs and that, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, there was a few times, you know, I felt like ending it, you know?
Yeah.
Like I had nothing, in that stage I had nothing to live for,
Right.
you know? And then you just thought, well, what's the point of living this life? You know, if I'm just going to keep doing this shit.
Yeah.
You know what's going to happen. I know I was going to end up back in jail, and I just thought, what am I doing here? You know, so...
So in that rock bottom, what was it that actually was the catalyst to turn your life around?
So the last time I was in jail was 2020, and it was for a crime I didn't actually commit this time. You know, for all the crimes I did do, but I was actually in jail for a crime I didn't commit, you know? And if I got found guilty of it, I was looking at 7 to 10 years. And I was sitting in Parklea jail, and the day before I just seen a bloke get stabbed and bashed. Well, like I thought he died, you know? And we were locked in for about 7 days after that.
Wow.
And I was sitting in Parklea and I just said to myself, something's got to change, eh?
Yeah.
You know, like I can't keep doing this. And everything I tried wasn't working, you know. I'd do the same thing, get out, hang out with the same people, and the same shit would happen. You know, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to pray. And,
Had you prayed before?
No, not really.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And all I said, like, I didn't ask to be a millionaire, I didn't ask to get a Lamborghini or any shit like that, you know? I just said, God, give me one more chance at my life.
Oh, wow.
You know, that's what, if you give me one more chance at my life, I'll do the rest. You know, and I just said that for 16 months while I waited for my court date.
Wow.
Yeah.
Give me one more chance. I love that.
Yeah, just give me one more chance in my life and I'll do the rest. And that's what I said for 16 months every night, yeah.
And so every night when you prayed that, did you believe that that was going to happen? Because obviously you kept praying that prayer.
Yeah. I was hoping it was going to happen. I didn't know, you know.
Yeah.
I guess it's about faith. You've got to have faith. And I have faith, but I was hoping that it was going to happen, yeah?
Yeah.
But in that 16 months, I had a lot of things happen. Like, I got stabbed twice in jail.
Right.
I lost my grandfather. My dad had a stroke as well. So there was a lot of things that happened too where I thought, you know what, this is the end. You know, this will be the last time I'm in jail. Whether I get out or whether I do the 7 or 10 years, I won't be coming back.
And that really is the ultimate rock bottom, isn't it? When you're led to have such a desire to change that you'll do anything to change.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And so that prayer was answered?
Yeah, it was answered, yeah.
Yeah.
I went to court and I think it started on the 1st of May.
And how long ago was this?
I got arrested at the start of 2020 and my court date was at the start of May, so
Okay.
whatever that is, so you know, I mean, the courts are backed up, so it takes ages to get to your court date. But yeah, court started, I pleaded not guilty, obviously.
Yeah.
And my lawyer called me in downstairs at the Downing Centre and he said to me, oh look, something's happened. The one witness, he's decided to change his statement and say that there's now a firearm involved and someone smacked him over the head 30 times with it. And I've gone, what? Like, I don't know whether, you know what I mean? This guy's just... Anyway, little do I know that that's what changed the whole court case. That's just shown that he's a complete liar.
Yeah.
You know, like, he said all this stuff's happened, but he can't identify anyone. He doesn't even know who I am.
Yeah.
You know, and then he got up on the stand and just made an absolute dick of himself, eh? Like, sorry to swear, but yeah.
Those 16 months really paid off, didn't they? Hey,
you know,
praying that every
like,
day.
even the judge was looking at him and stopped and said, mate, like, what are you going on about? Like, I don't know what you're saying and what to believe, you know? And then this went on we picked the jury on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, this went on. And then Friday I got to the Downing Centre and then my lawyer pulled me downstairs again and he goes, you're going home. And I said, what? And he goes, yeah, you're going to walk out the court with your mum this afternoon. And I was like, what are you talking about? They said, yeah, they've acquitted you of all charges.
Wow.
And I thought...
That deserves a round of applause, doesn't it? I could see the relief on your face right now when we're talking about
Well, you're
it.
looking at 7 to 10 years,
I
and
know,
then and, like when I do something wrong, I put my hand up and say, "You know what? I stuffed up. Give me my sentence." But this time I actually didn't do this crime. And I was thinking, man, come on. And and that Friday, 5 o'clock, they let me walk out, and I walked out of court with my mum and my sister.
Oh.
I never looked back.
Wow.
Never been in trouble again.
Was that one of your happiest moments?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that and meeting my partner at the moment. Yeah.
Oh, what a great story of hope, eh? Scotty, before we wrap up, and we'll get you back up for the panel, but before we wrap up, what strategies help you today? Because you've witnessed a lot, you've been through a lot of trauma, and it just kind of, the thoughts don't go away, like thoughts keep coming back and keep trying to revisit us. So what do you do when that PTSD that you've got now and those traumatic thoughts come up? What are the strategies that you have in your life that actually help you keep your mental health well?
That's a good question. I don't really do much. I think it might be good later on in life to maybe go speak to someone or a therapist or something like that,
Yeah.
But there are things that trigger me, like I watch things on TV, like a jail thing or something on the news, and it brings back memories.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean? Like we're in a prison right at Long Bay in 2020, you know what I mean? And then like you see things on TV and movies and that, and it brings back memories, like when the screws tear gassed, they shot like 35 tear gas capsules into our yard. Like I thought I was going to die. Like you couldn't breathe and that, you know what I mean? So there is little things you see that you wouldn't think trigger you, but they do trigger you,
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So...
And what do you do in those moments to emotionally calm yourself down or...
To be honest, I think I just try, not bottle it up, but I try not to think about it really,
Okay.
I just try I try to distract myself,
Okay, distraction,
Yeah, like I work now, I work 6 days a week.
Yeah.
We do 10-hour days, you know what I mean? So, like I've got a family now, I've got a missus, I've got 2 step-kids, so we're always busy, we're always doing stuff.
And you got your faith?
I've got my faith, I've got my church, C3 World, they're like a second family to me now, so...
Yeah, that's awesome.
They're good,
Oh, well, Scotty, it's been an absolute honour to have you share your story tonight. And this is the first time that he's shared his story. And it was really wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, well, we'll get you back up shortly. And now we're going to hand it over to Rusty, my wonderful brother, and really, I've got to say this, my best friend in the world. Yeah. And Rusty's going to ad-lib, no interview style for you.
I'm happy to take questions, Kerrie.
Would you prefer?
Whatever.
Would you prefer?
Whatever, yeah.
What would you like?
I'll just speak, I suppose.
Yeah, okay. I can
If
sit
you wanna
down.
ask me a question.
I can get off the stool for 10 minutes. It's good.
Thanks. I feel like a bit of a lightweight after John and Scotty. But I suppose I've got my own story of hope, stories of hope. Because I've had some issues over the years with substance abuse and a long time ago, and with mental health issues. And that was why Kerrie asked me to share. So, I won't make it a long one, obviously, but we've got alcoholism all through our family. Both my parents, John's spoken about it, and both my parents were alcoholics. And my grandparents were alcoholics, and I think John spoke about his mother committing suicide. My grandmother committed suicide through alcoholism and mental illness. As a young kid, I always had a lot of fear in my life, a lot of fear and anxiety as a young kid. And I look back and I know it was to do with my father, because my father was so full of fear. And he was like John, when John spoke, my father used to get beaten up by his mother, and his mother was a violent alcoholic, and she used to beat him up every night, and so he was full of a lot of fear and anxiety. And my mother used to drink alcoholically when I was a kid, and she used to get quite violent as well. And she drank while I was in the womb. So, I mean, whether it was hereditary or whether it was environmental, I grew up with a lot of fear as a kid, and I used to feel life a lot and used to have a lot of anxiety. And when I got into, I go to a 12-step program, and I still go to a 12-step program today. It's Alcoholics Anonymous. And I heard, when I got into AA, I heard that people said they felt like a square peg in a round hole. And that's how I felt all my life. So at a young age, I started to, I was a little bit rebellious. I didn't have the same exciting stories that these guys. Not exciting, but you know. I started smoking when I was 11. I had a very addictive personality, and I started drinking at 14 years of age. And as soon as I had the first drink, I just felt so comfortable. I felt so peaceful. All of this anxiety and all of this fear that I had, you know, as a kid, it just went, and it filled me in and made me feel like I thought everyone else felt. It gave me a lot of confidence, and that was at 14. But it robbed from me very quickly because I was one of those people. I found out later in life in AA that there's primary alcoholics and secondary alcoholics, and the primary alcoholics are basically born with it, and they have the it's in their genetics. And when they pick a drink up, they've got no on-off switch. They just got to keep drinking. So one drink leads to another, to another, and you just can't stop. Your goal is just to get as drunk as possible. And then there's the secondary alcoholics who, over the years, they're heavy drinkers and they have problems in their lives, and through heavy drinking and through the problems, they then go over a thin red line and their lives start to become problematic from the alcohol. So, but at a very young age when I drank, I used to have large parts of the night just going and disappearing, and I couldn't remember how I got from here to here, or couldn't remember what happened the night before. And a lot of the time I had these, you know, vague memories of things that I did and violent things that I did. And so I wasn't a very nice kid, even though I was very shy and insecure and anxious. And I was used to do what everyone else did just to fit in. And so I hung around with a few other guys where we were living in Chatswood, and we used to go and get into a lot of trouble and drink a lot and smoke dope, and we used to go around bullying kids. There was a few of us, not that I'm that big or anything, but you know. And we used to we break into the local high schools and the golf clubs after hours and bottle those sometimes to get alcohol and to get things and that sort of stuff. Mum and Dad were really, really worried about us. Really worried. But I mean, they were pretty liberal parents. They knew that I was going out with my mates and on the weekends and drinking, and I was allowed to smoke at home at 15, which sounds quite amazing. I mean, there's no one who would allow. I wouldn't allow my kids to smoke at home at 15, but they came from a different era to us and a different background, and they also thought, well, we might as well let them do these things at home so that they don't do them out there. But we were doing them out there as well. Yeah. So anyway, so I got into a bit of trouble, and Mum and Dad ended up moving us away from where we were living in Chatswood because they were worried about what was going to happen to us and the influence we were having. So they actually got us away from there, and I ran into some of those guys later on in life, and one of them had ended up being a heroin addict and had all sorts of problems, and he was one of my best mates in Chatswood. So it was good that they got us away, but I was talking about mental health as well, and at the age of 16 I started to go through a really, really severe depression. My father had an my father had a heart attack, and as I said, I was quite an anxious person, and that really sent me into a tailspin. You know, the thought of, it's quite a serious heart attack, the thought of him losing his life and at a young age. I started to get into this depression, and it got quite bad, and the black dog really got hold of me, and I just couldn't really see a way out of it. And I went along to a psychiatrist, and I was put on antidepressants, and I'd see the psychiatrist every now and again, and I started to get more and more hopeless, and I wasn't getting any better, and it was just like a dark tunnel. And I never planned suicide or anything like that. I never did. but there was many times that I just wished that I wasn't here, you know. I felt very hopeless, and of course I kept drinking, and the heavy drinking, made the interaction with the antidepressants worse, and made me feel worse, and made me feel more and more hopeless. And then, if I just fast forward a little bit, I had a lot of troubles over those years up until the time that I started work, with alcohol, with relationships, you know, getting into fights, forgetting a lot of the stuff that I did, having a lot of problems with mum and dad, and with friends and with girlfriends, and my life was just getting worse and worse, really. And then I started work at the AMP Society. It was my first job out of school, and I was studying part-time, and I started to have a couple of work functions. One of them I ended up having some really bad problems. I got very, very drunk at a pub in the Rocks, and the police were called, and because I was doing stuff when I was drunk that I couldn't remember, and apparently I was throwing salt and pepper shakers out the window at cars or something. And that's just not the sort of stuff that you do as an 18-year-old. Yeah, so as I say, that with me that was mainly blackouts. I didn't go out just to have a couple of drinks. I just kept drinking and drinking and drinking, and I couldn't stop. And then another time I woke up out of a blackout on the reception of the AMP Society, pinned down by a security guard. It was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So they were pretty much saying, mate, you've got to get out of this company. And a few more of those situations happened. There's a few more situations after that where I just thought, look, my life's just not getting better. I was very, very badly depressed. I hated myself. I hated my life. I used to go to bed at night and just cry out I had a bit of a faith. I cried out to a God that I didn't really understand at the time. I said, God, if you're up there, can you help me? I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing. I hate my life. I hate myself. I hate everything. Can you help me? My father he'd gone to Alcoholics Anonymous over the years, so I knew all about it. And it's strange, I didn't know that I had a problem, you know, with all of this going on. I thought it was everyone else's problem. I thought I could control drinking. I used to run marathons. I thought if I get really, really fit again, then I'll be able to control the drinking, and that was just a load of crap, basically. And I learned in AA many years later that you couldn't do it through willpower. It had to be total abstinence. And then you had to that was the first step, admitting you're powerless over alcohol and that your life's unmanageable. And then the second step came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So it had to be total abstinence. I was just short of my 20th birthday, so 20 years of age, that I went along to an AA meeting. And as I say, I knew about it because of my father. Going to AA and getting sober, and we used to go as well as kids to Alateen, which was basically the children of alcoholics, so they'd become aware of the alcoholism. And when I went along to my first meeting, I just broke down because I thought maybe I can be happy in this life, you know, maybe I can get some joy in my life, because I was just so depressed. And my soul was so destroyed just through all of this. Yeah, it's just my journey. And I'll be 60 next year, and I can honestly say I haven't had a drink for 40 years next year if I stay sober, God willing. Yeah, thank you. And that's been not due to me. That's been due to the help of a 12-step fellowship, Alcoholics Anonymous. People in there helped me get sober. It's been due to a local church. You know, I've been involved in churches over the years, and now I'm with C3B. And, you know, the faith, a God who's helped me through that and helped me through the journey, and all of those wonderful people along the way. I keep going along to AA on a weekly basis, and there's a couple of reasons why I do it, because if ever I think I can pick a drink up again, firstly, I can't. You know, I've seen many people over the years in AA start drinking again, and some of them have actually drunk themselves to death. Some have ended up in jail through blackouts and then getting into problems and doing things when they were under the influence. Some have just, as Scotty said, on the revolving door and going down and spiralling downwards into mental illness and in and out of mental institutions. And some just lead very, very despondent and unhappy lives. So I do that, but also my wife, Lily, she's never seen me drink, and I was an absolute horror when I drank, and her life would be a misery. I also like to go back to give back and try to help the newcomer get sober, because if everyone left Alcoholics Anonymous when they got sober, there'd be no one to help the newcomer. So we all in there try to help sponsor new people. You help them through the 12 steps, which is like a process of restoration, going back and cleaning up the past, making amends to people that you've hurt, and just restoring your life. So that's the second reason to give back. But since being sober, life has still happened, and I've still had tough times at times, and that brought me back to another time. Both of my parents have passed away, and that's very sad. Very sad, and it's something that I'll never get over. You just don't get over your parents passing away. My mother died of long-standing illness with cancer, bone cancer, at 65 years of age. And my father died of emphysema, and he was sick for quite a few years. And I was primarily on the front line of looking after them because my sister was in Queensland. My brother was very busy with his work and his family. Lily and I don't have kids, and so it really took its toll, just sort of being there for them the whole time. And then there was one time when when my mother had passed away, and my father was in his last sort of few years, and I was going through a really tough time at work for an extended period of time. There was some issues with some people there, and as a result, they were trying to performance manage me, due to personality things. But at the same time, I'd started studying an MBA, and I was doing that after work, and whilst I was caring for my dad. So I'd go to work, have all of this stress at work. Depending on, it got worse over the years. I'd go home, visit Dad, drive down to the beaches, or go to his hospital, or go to palliative care, depending on what it was. And then I'd go home and study for the MBA until sort of all hours of the morning, get up and do it all again. And I just got to the point when I was just physically, emotionally, mentally, just completely gone. I was completely spent. And at this time I was still going along to AA. I was still going along to church. I still had my faith. But I was just completely gone. And I remember I was outside of the hospital one day, and I'd had a bit of a disagreement on the phone with someone, and next thing I just went berserk in the car, and I just started yelling out at the top of my voice and screaming and just going ballistic. And I thought, where did that come from, And I think I was just, as I say, just completely spent. And anyway, a few months went by, and my dad passed away. And that was one of the most tragic things in my life, because, I lost my mum, and then I had my dad, and then I lost my dad. And then we don't have kids. And then it was like, that's it. There's nothing above, there's nothing below. I'm an orphan, That's how I felt. So that happened, but then I actually did my final exam a week after Dad's funeral. So it was actually good in a way. There was a bit of a distraction with that study. But 3 or 4 months later, I thought I was going okay. I thought the grieving was going okay. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I started to get the most incredible anxiety. I started to have panic attacks. I started to be just fearful about anything and everything. It didn't matter what it was. Lily would say, these people, friends, they want to go out. And I said, I don't want to go out. I don't want to see anyone. All I wanted to do was just stay at home, see no one, have no responsibility. I burst into tears out of nowhere. This was about 10 years ago. So I didn't know what was going on, and it was very, very frightening and very scary, because I'd always enjoyed spending time with people. I'd always, loved the company of people and been quite social, and I didn't want to have anything to do with anyone. And I was very, very scared. And then the depression started to set in because I started to get hopeless, thinking, is this just going to get worse, And I'd be sitting at the table with Lily Cross, and we'd be having dinner, and I'd get a panic attack. And I'd even feel uncomfortable sitting there with my own wife, and then I'd have fear about how I was coming out, and it was just absolutely bizarre. So this is, I suppose, a story of hope. Lily and Kerrie said, talk about the substance abuse and talk about the mental illness. So that's what I'm talking about, yeah. So, but I got through it. And I got through it one day at a time, just like I got through, I got sober one day at a time. They said, you don't have to get sober for the rest of your life. Like, you don't have to have a drink for the rest of your life, just for the day, And just for the day, you cannot have a drink. And then you get up to the next day, and just for the day, you won't have a drink. And I didn't only do it through AA, I did it through my faith. God got me sober, God kept me sober. God gave me the strength. God did for me what I couldn't do for myself. And then with this, I chose not to go on antidepressants again. But I found a really good counsellor. So I think you were talking about counselling, Scotty, before, about one day. And the counsellor really helped me, and they helped me through it, and a supporting and loving wife. Yeah, it takes me. Yeah. It takes me. I'm sorry to cry, but it just takes me back to how I was feeling back then, because I was feeling very hopeless. Yeah, and loving and supporting family and some fantastic friends, and a wonderful church. Good mates that I've known Joel for years. A wonderful church, and the church is my family today. C3 Burwood. So I got through that, through all of those things, and today I can still get anxious at times about some things. Little things can rattle me sometimes, and I can start to get a bit anxious. I think, hang on, just bring it back to the moment. It's one day at a time. You've gotten through many things before, you'll get through this again. I've done it through. I say that the Lord Jesus Christ, Here's my strength. Here's my hope. Without Him, I couldn't have done any of this. So, I'll just leave it at that, Kerrie. Thanks very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Rusty. That was amazing. And I think Rusty's a perfect example that we never know who can be struggling. He said, I don't know what I've really got to talk about. The other guys have got, big stories and that. And I'm like, well, there's a lot of people out there that are struggling and you'd never know. And we can never look at someone and just presume that they have it all together, because often it can be the people that we least suspect that can be struggling the most. And I'm a mental health first aid trainer, and one of the things that we learn in that is that the latest statistics are that 1 in 4 people are struggling with their mental health, and that 1 in 2 know someone that is. And so I think a key factor for all of these guys is connection, and connection is the opposite of addiction. And one of the things that we often talk about in AA, because I'm also in AA, I don't know if you know that, but I've been sober for 40 plus years as well, and one of the things we talk about is getting rid of the old environment, because we become like the 5 people we hang out with the most. And so I know that all of us have done that and made new friends and new positive connections in our life in order to move forward. So I will get these 3 wonderful men back up, and we'll have we've got to be out of here at 9, is that right, Joel?
Yeah.
9? Doors closed? 9? Yeah. So we're just going to have a few questions, a bit of a Q&A time. So let's give John, Rusty and Scotty a round of applause as they come up, and we'll ask them a few questions. So just take a seat, guys, wherever you... And
Books.
yeah, we'll talk about that. Do you want a bit of water? So it's always interesting to see who's going to be the first question. Have we got anyone game out there in the audience? Now, there's nothing's off the table, okay? Marcus. Sorry, Marcus.
Rusty, were you anxious getting up tonight?
Yeah, a little bit anxious. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Did you handle it?
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting there getting a bit anxious and thinking, what happens if I have a blank? But then I thought, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? I could have a blank. But I thought, also said a prayer. I just said, I can do all things through the strength.
Good question, Marcus. Sorry, I don't know how I got Marcus's name wrong because I spent a bit of time with him recently, so...
You can call me anything.
Okay, have we got another question? Yes?
If there was someone who's in your position, but they're a young kid who's 16, and they're going through something similar to you, they're going in and out of GB, how would you try to encourage them?
Who's this question for? Scotty? Scotty and Johnny? Do you want to pass the mic over to Scotty and then we'll flick over to Johnny?
Is this on? I'd say to choose your friends wisely at that age. That's a very tender age of where you can go down the right path or the wrong path. So it's who you hang out with. Like Kerrie said, if you hang out with bad people, you will become a bad person. You hang out with drug addicts, you will become a drug addict, So I think you got to really choose carefully who you hang out with and who your role models at that time are, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a great question, John. That's your mic. Don't try and steal mine.
I just can't have it. Look, it's more complicated than people realise. The authorities know the answers. They know how to keep people out of jail. They won't spend the money because people that are heading the wrong way, and we all know who they are. We see the signs. They need mentors.
Yeah.
They need tutors. They need to be able to get away from the environment. And as Scotty said, really the company you keep, because peer pressure, doesn't matter how much you will talk to kids and educate them, if they go back to the peers and stay with them and get away from the person who's mentoring them, they'll go back because the peer pressure is too great. The peer pressure will pull them back in. And we've all been victims of peer pressure, And the authorities know it, they just won't spend the money. They won't spend the money.
That's a great point, John, talking about the peer pressure, because youth crime's really on the rise, isn't it, at the moment? And
absolutely. And you see some shocking things now. Look, the thing is that, and it's got a lot to do with the young people now. When I was a kid, I was pretty naive. You probably were too. Comic books and bloody a bit of television was pretty innocent. Now they've got access to the internet. They've got access to everything. They know everything that's going on, and a lot of them are giving up. There's no hope for me. You see girls bloody suiciding because they can't take the pressure on the internet because you're not pretty enough or this or that, or they won't do this or they don't do that. Kids try and live up to standards that it's impossible to live up to. We didn't have that sort of pressure on us when we were young.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
We just wanted to be a good athlete or a good tennis player or something like that.
Yeah.
And now there's all sorts of stuff, pressures on kids out there.
I heard a saying recently that comparison is the thief of joy. And comparison's something that's it's like the new cancer in our society, isn't it? Thanks to the internet.
Yeah, look,
and it's destroying people's
yeah,
lives.
The internet does a lot of good. There's a lot of great. I mean, you can go to Google and you get the answer straight away and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It does a lot of good, but it does a lot of damage too. And
Yeah.
and people use it. And you've only got to see. Even you get on Facebook and people impersonate you. Next thing, there's another you out there. You know, and it's pretty hard to bloody do anything about it.
I think what we have to remember, though, often with social media too, isn't it, that what we're viewing is usually only people's best moment and best day.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, true. That's true.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Rusty, did you want to say anything about that?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Who had the yes?
Rusty, I can understand what you're saying. Personally for myself, I was wondering how do you get through panic attacks, depression and suicide? Not a lot of people know, but I'm suffering with depression and suicide thoughts every day of my life.
Yeah.
I've been trying to pray to God. Like, do you have any advice that I could use to get myself through what I've been going through? And just recently found that God protected me because I just had a major accident with a semi-trailer on my way home and the car flipped and flipped back and all I got was a sore back in the neck. But I need advice on how to get through anxiety, panic attacks, because I'm a real bad panic attack sufferer.
I mean, I used to be scared of panic attacks and anxiety, and the more that I feared them, the scarier it was.
Yeah.
But I was told by the counsellor just to basically say, hang on, like observe it and realise it. I'm having a panic attack. I'm feeling anxious about this thing at the moment, but that's okay, and I will get through it. Rather than, I can't feel anxious, I can't feel anxious, you know. And embrace it. That's okay, but I'll get through it, and things will get better, and it'll pass, and it does pass.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, right.
And that's great. I love that, Russ, that it'll pass. And I think if we can bring things down to one day at a time, because one day at a time we can cope with anything. And being in the moment, coming back to the moment, because while ever we live in the past, we will be living with regret, and while ever we live in the future, we'll be living with fear. And I don't know if you're going to be there in the morning, but I'm actually going to be talking about how to become free from fear. So, any other questions? Joel?
I want to know about temptation, because you've all mentioned drugs and even crime and a moment of stopping. But what about the temptation to go back to that? How strong
Great
is
question.
that, and how do you deal with that if it comes? And that's across all three of you, actually. And even you, Kerrie. Yeah.
Well, you know, when I was a gambler, and I still bet on the football, have bet on the football and tennis, stuff like that. But I'd go into a casino and put $1,000 on the red or the black, you know. And if that lost, I'd try and get it back, and sometimes I'd walk out losing 10,000, you know. But the highs and the lows, it's hard to explain if you're not a real gambler, but with the races, if you've got a horse going for a huge amount of money, and suddenly this horse starts to make a run down the outside, and your heart's going like that, because all that exists is that horse and the excitement, and they go over the line, locked together, you know, nostrils flared, and if your horse has won, you've got about 12,000. If it loses, you're walking home, you know, and that's the sort of thrill that only real gamblers will do. And that sort of gambling and that sort of adrenaline rush can lead to robbing banks and doing things like that, to taking a high risk.
That desire to do that gambling job.
Well, you've got to find alternatives. You've got to find alternatives. And the thing is that you've got to accept that, have a look at the last 30 years or 40 years, and you're destroyed so much with that lifestyle.
Yeah.
So if you can do it in a smaller way, a smaller way. I'm a great believer that if you take something totally off somebody, they're gonna want to try and get it. Different with drugs or alcohol, you can't, you've got it. But something like that, the little bit of excitement you get, I can bet on a football match now and put $20 on it and watch it for 2 hours and get a thrill if it wins. So, but you've got to have something to play. The other thing is doing things, writing, helping people, and seeing the good that you can do, because all that gambling and drugs the same. All the drugs that does is destroy people. Gambling's just about. In some ways, gambling is a worse drug than drugs itself, because a drug addict can only put a certain amount of money, a certain amount of drugs into his, but a gambler. And I remember there's a case of a bank manager who lost $6 million to a corporate bookmaker, and he got 8 years. And you know what the judge said? The corporate bookmaker should be standing there beside you, because we were the bank manager who's going to get $6 million to bet. They knew that it was wrong money.
And you might be able to do that, but there are some people that they just can't go near the gambling because they just don't have that sense of control. And I'll just quickly say this before I throw it over to Rusty and Scotty, but I don't go to. I've been sober for 43 years, and if people have had more than a couple of drinks, I'm out of there. I don't go on a cruise where you're trapped on the boat and there's drunk people. We used to have this saying in AA that if you sit in the barber chair long enough, you'll get a haircut. And I don't want a haircut. Yeah. So, Scotty, would you like to answer, and then Rusty can come back to Rusty.
Yeah, so I think it's a little bit different, like John said, with drugs and that. You can't go near it. You can't, because I know if I had a little taste or a dabble, it would be all over for me. Like Rusty drinking. If he had one drink, it would be all. If I had a smoke of this or whatever it is, I know exactly what would happen, And like John said as well, you know what that addiction does to your life and what you've lost. And being older now and mature, I think about that before. Like you could put it in front of me, I wouldn't touch it. Yeah. Because I know exactly what happened. But if you put it in front of me when I was 20 years old, you wouldn't get it back off me. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I know now, being older and mature, what will happen when you come into them temptations, and not to put yourself in a situation where you're going to get tempted either.
Yeah, so no going back to the old environment.
No going back to the old life. No speaking to the boys, no social media, you know what I mean? Just none of it, yeah.
And what I'm hearing from you and John, and maybe it might be with Rusty too, is that it's all about changing your thought processes as well, and telling yourself a story every time that temptation or you're triggered. The big thing is knowing what your triggers are too. Yeah. Because if you have a backup plan when you're triggered, you're not going to turn to what used to make you feel better. You'll turn to something positive instead.
Yeah, 100%.
Rusty.
That's okay. Yeah, I can't really add much more. I was going to say exactly what Kerrie said about the barber shop. Because that's what I was told. But I remember when I first got sober, I wouldn't go to Christmas parties, like work Christmas parties. I wouldn't go out to functions where there was alcohol, where I'd be tempted. So if you've got a weakness, just stay away from that place or those people or that thing. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Billy.
Yeah, also in what the three of you said with the gambling and the alcohol and the drugs, the thing is, gambling is acceptable, drinking is acceptable, drugs is not acceptable. So when you look at the situation, drugs aren't acceptable and people get looked down on. But if you gamble or if you have alcohol, you can go anywhere, it's all acceptable. With the drugs and alcohol and the gambling, they're all addictive. Yet the alcohol and the gambling acceptable and the drugs isn't. So it's even harder for the people that do drink and
exactly
gamble. It's much harder. Not that I'm dishing the drugs, but it's out there more. It's more acceptable, and people are encouraged to do that. Yeah, when you have smoke pot or anything like that, you look down upon, but someone which would be say $50, and someone could go and spend $1,000 on gambling, but that's okay.
And that's all the more reason, isn't it, too, to avoid the situations, because what the Aussie culture, oh, come on, just have one, what are you, weak or something, you know, and it's so hard once you're in that situation. If you're triggered, then it's like, I'll stuff it, why don't I, you know? So, John, busting it to say something there.
The point that Billy makes is pretty good. You know, I didn't think of it like that.
Great point, really.
But see, we know that you don't take drugs, right? It's obvious. We know that you don't drink. But do we know that I don't gamble? I'm sorry, you know, I have bets in football, but I've got a lot of money. Now, if you all gave me $1,000 and sent me to races, and I didn't have a bet, you'd know I was cured.
Yeah.
Do we want to do that test or what?
It's a very, very, very good point, though, isn't it? Very, very, very good point.
Kerrie, could I just say one other thing?
Yeah, sure, Russ.
Yeah, I mean, when the Star City Casino opened, I was spending $1,000 a night at the Star City on the pokies.
Yeah, there you go.
That was in the days when, because I had a really addictive personality, and that was in the days when they had the cash card teller there, and you could only get $1,000 out a night.
Yeah, well.
So I'd go there and sit in front of the pokies and smoke. I'd just broken up from relationship, and I'd take $1,000 out and I'd have a win, but I'd just lose it all. The goal was to lose it all, basically. You'd lose it and then you'd walk out and go home in the early hours of the morning, very, very depressed.
It's the worst feeling.
Oh, it's nothing. It's soul destroying, and I did that about 10 times.
Wow.
If you're
So-
going to be suicidal, that's when you
Good way to do it.
Yeah. So I suppose I was going to say, if you know anyone and you know their weakness, and they've got a weakness, do whatever you can just to steer them away from that weakness. Yeah. Well, don't. Yeah.
That's a
put them
true
in
friend,
that
isn't
bad
it, to be able to
situation.
do
Yeah.
that. Look, I know there's probably a couple more questions, but we are mindful of time because we have to be out of here at 9. But if you have some questions and you want to ask us individually, that would be fine after. And also, there's some books up the back still for sale. John's story is up the back, 2 books where you can read everything. There's so much that you still want to know. And I've got some books up there, and I've also got a mental health mind management journal as well. So, and I look forward to, thank you so much, Joel, for having us tonight and for putting this event on for the community. And I look forward to seeing some of you tomorrow and sharing my story. And if you want John to sign the books, he'll be waiting up at the back table. And if you want to ask Rusty or Scotty any questions or myself, don't charge us, but, you know. So thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight and making this night such a wonderful time. Thank you.